Alright, back to flying colors, and this time we're looking at, this is actually a ship of the line scenario again. We're looking at Porto Praya Bay, 16th April 1781, and I thought, geez, we're going to be in the southern hemisphere because it says Cape of Good Hope. No, this is in the Cape Verde Islands area. The English end up anchoring in a location that the French fleet under Suffren is interested in anchoring in as well. And when he discovers the English are here, he decides to launch an attack. We have a few things. First of all, both sides are allowed to anchor anywhere they like. The English start already anchored. I'm bringing the French in under full sail. Let's see what else we have here. To win, the French are going to have to damage more ships than they sustain, with sunk or struck counting as 2 ships. So we're not going to worry about victory points here. It's just straight damage for whatever that makes. There's no break checks, although the French historically kind of broke. The French are going to take attacks from G-rated ships. Now G is the gunboat rating right above 6. At the end of any turn, if they're within 3 hexes of an anchored British ship, this is considered to be some old East Indian men who are hanging around and helping the English out. You use the range from the British ship to the French target when determining the effect. We have some shoals here. Let's look at this. First of all, it's a 12-turn game, and it's going to go 12 turns. The Audacity, the French have that at 1. Wind direction, we have that marked. It is calm. That means everybody's going to be moving 1 speed lower, and the wind change is less likely to occur. Also, drifts happen only on even-numbered turns, if I can remember that. We're going to have, okay, there's 2 reef conditions. One is H, which is this big thing, and that's going to be the port, the harbor kind of showing up there. That's got a -2 on the grounding table, which makes it more likely to ground. However, when you go beyond that, E, R, and T, R is this gray here, and T is the gray here. Those are automatic grounding. Those are going to be the beaches, actually. Historically, I guess Suffren came in, anchored, started firing at the Brits, was getting the worst of the engagement, and pulled away. Whether or not players, faced with victory conditions as clear as whoever gets the most damage, ships are going to, not try to fight it out longer, I'm hopefully not going to play it out beyond the reasonable range here, even if there is a break rule that I ignore. Lousy of phrasing things. What I mean is, even if there is a rule to ignore the break rules, and I will be following that, if things go really poorly for one side or the other, the one side may try to escape or something like that. And whatever works is basically it. I don't really like I don't feel like the victory conditions here capture all the possible effects and events that could be going on in a battle. For example, the English might decide to weigh anchor and take off. I would certainly consider that a significant issue, though. I've got to worry about these English because they can rotate on their anchor, and they probably want to, given that they're facing outward with everything. We didn't have that with the last anchorage scenario. All right, let's start our movement. Well, with the wind going against the French, they're having a hard time coming into the port here. I've run through, this was turn 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 turns, basically. And this is all I've got, no engagement yet. What I'm planning on doing, if the English are going to just sit here, which they seem to be willing to do, is move up and drop anchor near these guys, near just one part of the squadron. I don't see a reason to try to engage the whole squadron. So that'll force the English to go through the slipping anchors rule, which essentially gets rid of the bonus that they have for firing for anchors, and then they may have to they only have 2 anchors on board the ship. They cut one if that happens. I've got to write up my sheet for this. I was thinking about just using counters for the hull hits and such not, but that's such an annoyance. I think I'll, my thought is, well, there's very few ships, it won't be that obnoxious. Well, yeah, but there's very few ships, so it won't be that obnoxious to handle the writing either, right? At the end of 5, French finally got into range of the English ships. Kind of questionable range, but I decided to open up in this case. We got 1 hull hit on the French and a manpower hit on the English. Whoop, whoop. The English don't want to give up the anchorage bonus. First of all, they get a plus to the... although I think I keep forgetting to do this. They get a plus to the firing modifier. +2 to the table, and yes, I keep forgetting that. But also they were getting those the fire from the East Indiamen. There's a penalty if you rotate when you're firing, so I don't really want to spin around and use my first fire there. I really should just slip the anchors and sail out and fight. Right now the exchange is not really going in my favor. I've done 3 hits total to the French ships, 4 to the English, and I think we're done with 6. Push into the next turn, turn 8. You can see one of those English ships has been damaged. I'm still sailing my way around. I haven't dropped anchor with the French yet. I may start doing so. There's some advantage to doing that, plus I don't have to keep moving. Of course, once I do that, I more or less telegraph to the English. See, the English have been unwilling to raise anchor or slip anchor. This is the case here, because they don't want to give up that firing advantage. They're going to have the East Indiamen, and I didn't shoot them yet. I'll take care of them, but they're not going to do much. But this thing's taken a lot of damage just by everybody kind of sailing by it. I'm not quite sure what to do with the English. Following kind of the historical, it sounded like, well, the French just sailed up, dropped anchor, and stood side by side and blasted away at the English. Well, this scenario is not long enough for the French to do that. And by the English not slipping anchor and sailing, it's really allowing the French, though, to concentrate fire on this. I was planning on taking the first 2 ships on. I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing that. I think I'm just going to cluster on this one and try to sink it. And then move to another one if need be. The way the victory conditions are, that's sufficient. Now the English really do have to do something. I'm not sure what they were thinking, but they certainly shouldn't have sat at anchor the way they did. All right. Of course, a little bit more damage would have been done to these French ships because I've been forgetting the +2 to the firepower for the at anchor, but that is not sufficient here. Let me roll those East Indiamen. They're both G's out at 3. They're going to be firing on the 2 table, which is just not going to do much. I haven't been giving them the English firing modifier bonus, but I will give them the with the wind bonus there. I think that applies. So let's do 1 there, 7. I get some more rigging on this poor sucker, and then the other one will be without it. 5. I get a hull hit on the whatever this is. Alright. Late in the game, with the idea that the French are just obviously not going to move quickly enough, I've cut the anchors on a few of these. As we move up to turn 9 here. But this poor thing, and I haven't rolled for it yet, is about ready to strike or sink. First I got to check to see if it sinks. I didn't write its... Yeah, I got a low enough number. I didn't write the... I guess we'll leave it on an anchor for what that's worth. I'm not sure what we're supposed to do with a sunk ship that's at anchor. If they don't break up, But it did not leave. There was something I was going to say there. Oh, yeah. I don't have the ratings written down, but one is low enough. So yeah, I don't know if the anchor would remain connected, or if the destruction of the ship is enough that it would break up and start floating. But at this point, I've shifted one ship over here. There was some debate about whether I should try to turn this guy, but there's a penalty to firing on a turn that you did a rotation on your anchor, so I didn't really want to do that. Anyway, that's one British ship just sunk, and clearly the French are winning this scenario. It only goes out, what, 12 turns? 12 turns, and we're already through 8 of them. So I'm going to keep playing it out because, I don't know, maybe the English will start doing something here. But this looks a lot more difficult than the description of the situation sounded. It sounded like the English were just, oh yeah, why I didn't want to shift. I didn't want to get that penalty on firing. You get a, when you rotate, you get a level of rate. So I was able to get a full fire off on this. Do the East Indiamen stay there? I don't know. You know, some things aren't covered very well in the rules for this scenario, but I would say if the ship's no longer there, they're going to lift anchor and try to get away from there. So only this ship is going to produce an East Indiaman fire now, I guess. Slide into turn 10, you can see the English are beginning to sail into the French. Now the French have cut down. Both sides have good wind connection, which in this game means 4 movement points because of the calm. Exchanging some fire on the on some potential rakes. One was actually successful, the further distant one, and also taking some fire from the anchored ship. Now the anchored ship is too far away for any of the East Indiamen to fire, so now the English have lost that advantage. With one ship down, with some fire coming in, let's see, which one is it? Well, the Hero and the Romney. They may be able to damage a French ship. Really, for the French to win this scenario, what they should be doing is disengaging at this point. They've destroyed a British ship. That's worth 2 victory points. There's no real comparison other than just, hey, what's your differential? And at this point, any ship that gets wrecked is a victory point against me. So given that I have a number of ships that are at about half wrecked, the French ships are bigger than the English ships in this scenario. You might want to say, well, I don't know about that. You know, I want to get out of here. But on the other hand, I do have a fair chance of still outgunning those English ships and maybe wrecking another one. I don't know. Okay, so the English cut across and start beating up, and the French actually do the same. All the fire pretty much happened during the British phase. We've got the poor Hero here is down to 10 hits against it. One more hit and it's crippled. On the other hand, the French ships are beginning to get close to the point where they take a point of damage. Now, let me see. Yeah, that I'm not counting against. This guy did not fire. Probably should have. He had a decent enough shot, but it was at a long range, and I thought the French would end up getting closer. I didn't really see that I was going to cut across with the English ships. Oh well. So, interesting situation here. The French were beating 1 hex back. I thought I screwed up here, actually. Wind direction, beating means that they've only got 3 movement points, make it 2 because it's calm. I spent one of them to move into this space. Rake attempts, this one failed actually on the stern rake, but I got a very lucky bow rake on the Jupiter and hit it with like 6 hull hits from here. Now, my second move is to here, and then without spending a movement point, I can swing to here. Now, obviously, the English get a nice shot on me if they wanted, and given that the Heros is that ship and it's pretty beaten up, I would like to try to get a cripple shot on it there. But by that kind of movement, I avoid getting any rake attempt on me, essentially. Although the English could turn, if they could tack completely, they could swing around and hit me. I'm not counting on that being my tactic, though. I think I'm going to try to turn down and slice into them. I've got to make that decision right now on one French ship moving, because these guys can break formation. This scenario, the way it is, I'm not really trying to enforce. Oh, I completely forgot to move this sucker last turn. That's illegal. He was coming down. He's got full 5 movement. Sorry, more than that. 4 movement points plus 3 is 7. 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say we put that up. I don't know. And we'll get rid of the sail. That would have been last turn's movement. I just didn't see the ship. He had to do some kind of movement, and I didn't want to get him into formation. All right. So anyway, I've got to kind of guess what the French are going to do with the rest of their ships. I can't count on them keeping a formation together. They've got a good leader, and this is just almost naturally a cluster situation. That, you know, it's one of the things I think you're actually better, you know, any type of trying to impose orders, formation orders, would cause an issue in scenarios like this. So it kind of worries me to try to do that. Anyway, with something this small, it certainly doesn't hurt to let the clusters occur. No wind change as we move into turn 11. There's just 2 more turns left. See what we got here. Gotta take these off. I should have done this beforehand. I don't know why I'm doing it right now. God damn it. I think it was there. I got no idea. You can see the English have kind of broken up their formation. They may be out of command next time. But they've done this in order to get a potential rake here and come in here and get shots in there. The exchange is on fire. You can see the English have not done well. They've got 2 more crippled ships. They haven't managed to cripple any of the French ships, although they're fairly close on the heroes here. It takes 13 hits to knock down. And this is why I wish the victory points were in here. It's already taken 6, 7, 8, 9 of those 13. So chances are the French are going to take some cripples, but they are really lighting up the English fleet. There's the Sphinx. But, you know, with ships kind of coming loose from their command at this point, with maybe something like this being out of command or this being out of command, those may not get to fire. They may not be allowed to come close to the French. And that's just one of the disadvantages of letting your formation fall apart, or letting it get sliced in half. You can see the French destroyed their formation, but they've cut apart the English. Every single ship except the anchored Monmouth is damaged now. Now the English get to start going. The French got the initiative, and were able to pretty much wreck the rest of the English fleet. And at the end of 11... we didn't have strikes on a couple of these, but the Romney, and I should have transferred the Admiral before he left, after I moved, but I forget to do these things sometimes. Well, chances are the Admiral wouldn't have come off. He would have needed, I think, pretty low. Certainly lower than that. So anyway, he went down with his ship, and now none of the British are going to be in command. And let me see if this one got to fire. Yeah, he would have gotten a firing opportunity. Either way, I wanted to turn him this way, and I wanted to turn him this way. I might slip anchor next time, I don't know. Anyway, does not look good for the English. Not only, it looks to me like their fleet's captured and wrecked. But I've got one more turn of firing opportunity in this scenario rules. I'm always a little iffy about, you know, what are the rules really meant to represent? And there's no designer's notes on a per scenario type basis for the most part. There's historical notes. It's hard to justify what's going on here and why this is treated particularly differently from a lot of other scenarios. It's kind of the, you almost feel like there was a design in the whole system, And then there was kind of a decision, well, let's make something a little different. Let's make the scenario a little different. You know, let's change the rules largely to just shake up what the players are faced with, rather than particularly because in any way all that more representative of what happened. I don't know, you know. Anyway, I guess there's probably an excuse for this being a little different, but I feel like the bigger excuse is let's hand the players something that plays a little differently. And I guess that's okay. I mean, the scenarios definitely get a little dull when it's just open sea after open sea, and all of them are the same, you know. Hey, roll until you break, or do this or do that. A little mix-up makes the game part more interesting without really hurting the historicity. There may not be a real strong reason for bending the game's general format, but there's not really a strong reason not to either. Those are almost arbitrary rules put in place to define an end to a scenario, and there's no... In general, they probably don't work any better than some other set of arbitrary rules actually would. As our ending place, the French came in and shot up the Jupiter some more, enough that even though it sailed away at a rapid pace, it foundered and went under. The hero is still up and did not strike, but it can't conceivably reasonably get away. I slipped anchor with this and sent it forward. But the British obviously have taken severe hits at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1 at the way this scenario is countered for whatever reason. You know, if we wanted to count victory points, well, this is worth 6, whereas most of the English ships are worth significantly less. The hero is worth 5, but it's just crippled. But these guys are worth 3 each. So they're each at 6. I think this is worth 3 as well. Yeah. So, I mean, the smaller English ships are getting overscored in this scenario. On the other hand, that may be an indication of the East Indiamen that are present that could be, commandeered or whatever by the French. Well, that's it for Porto Praya Bay battle. A little battle, kind of an interesting situation. Some of the stuff that tries to add a little bit more flavor to the game instead of just endless scenarios of, sea situations. I think the fact that they do add, they do change the rules a little bit. Oh, and add to that Johnson went under, but of course he doesn't count for anything actually in this scenario. Anyway, I think the fact that they do try to mix things up a little bit, it's kind of nice in the sense just that a naval battle, this is like the SFB type games where they're, in SFB they're constantly trying to find some way to make a scenario interesting. Now SFB has the advantage of just saying, hey, this is totally something completely different. Here the designer has to, and assuming if he has any aid in hunting down scenarios and helping him find stuff, has to find things that we can do something really neat with out of history. And you've got the same situation with, the Great Battles of History games too. But it's more telling, I think, with naval games because there just is such limited terrain value, right? It's either open sea or open sea with hazards in it of some sort or another, shoals, reefs, whatever, land. And you can't sail on those hazards particularly. One thing the game doesn't really do too much with, let me take a look at this because I may be lying here. Yeah, grounding is affected by the rate of the ship, so a smaller fleet has a chance of kind of slipping through the shoals better. That's kind of neat. But how interesting is the scenario when it comes down to can you slip through there or not? And that's all it is. Do you get stuck on the reefs because you decide to try to take a risk? That's just one of the issues, A game like this, I think, is much, much better, as is SFB, in the framework of a campaign where you kind of have randomly generated terrain, or terrain in the case of ports maybe could be already fixed. But in the case of shoals and stuff like that, if you're close to the shore, you might be able to get these advantages, and then you take them in. And within the framework of not just a scenario but a campaign, in the sense that like you have to try to maintain your ships and keep them from sinking, and maybe do other things with your ships like transport troops or blockade a harbor or something, a game like this becomes much more interesting to me. The fights add their importance is increased, as it were. Of course, that's true on the land too. And, you know, it's not like I'm not enjoying myself. It's just something in me wants, especially with naval combat, there to be some grand campaign in there. I don't know. Maybe something like the Sea Lords game over there, which actually suggests, hey, play this out with some naval system. It would be kind of neat. I know that they have the Russian and Swedish one for this. I wonder if it covers that 1740 war. If it does, that might be the excellent campaign background for this system. Because I really do like the way the Summer Scrolls would work as a campaign generator for battles here. Be neat.